Hello, this is Shri here again. I am here with a new guest, Mr. Anthony Carducci, who is a diehard Jets fan. Anthony, say hello.
Hey, Shree, hey, everyone.
All right. Anthony is a diehard Jets fan, as I mentioned, and I'm a Patriots fan. So this is going to be an exciting podcast. And I'll just set up the stage before I get into some of the questions. So every Jets fan I know is pretty excited about Aaron Rodgers signing with the Jets. And then along with that, he did bring Randall Cobb, which I think we did talk about a couple of days ago at work. But then we also had a few other signings, Lazard, and he already has Hackett as his offensive coordinator back in Green Bay. So it's been very exciting as a Jet fan for you, and also I also wanted to touch a little bit about the what the Jets are planning to do with Aaron Rodgers, and then how are they going to fare in the AFC East. I have some thoughts, but I'll let you kind of chime in, and then we'll also go a little bit into what you thought they did in the draft. So with that, Anthony, the floor is yours. What do you think? What's your first, view of Aaron Rodgers as a Jet?
Well, Shree, thank you for having me on the podcast. Always fun talking football with you. So, my take on Aaron Rodgers. Love the signing. We have a perennial quarterback. I think the last time that we had a quarterback like this was, do I dare say, Joe Namath. Mark Sanchez was good, got us to the playoffs those 2 years, but
Penn, Pennington was actually pretty good too.
Pennington was good. We ended up, winning the AFC East. He brought us to the AFC East championship game, but there's Aaron Rodgers is just completely different caliber,
Right.
brings a ton of leadership. There's a lot of hope. We're happy and we're hopeful here as Jet fans, Shrew.
No, I agree with you. Going back to what you were talking about a quarterback, the quarterback is very important, especially in the AFC East. I mean, you do have Mahomes is still the guy to beat. I mean, you have Allen, you have Justin Herbert, and Joe Burrow. So I mean, I just named like top four quarterbacks in the AFC, not counting even Russell Wilson. That's five. There you
Right.
go. And I
Or
didn't.
Lamar Jackson.
Yes. Oh, I did forget Lamar Jackson. I completely forgot my own guy, Mac Jones. But let's wait. Let's keep him aside for a while. But I think you're right. Mark Sanchez did get you to the I think AFC Championship. Um, I do remember Chad Pennington. I really liked Chad Pennington when he was a Jet quarterback. He just had too many injuries. But coming back to Rodgers, the Jets had a premier defense last year. So what do you think with the Aaron Rodgers signing? Especially in the AFC East. Let's before we get into the rest of the AFC. In the AFC East, to me, this is my opinion. I see how the Bills are doing. I see how the Dolphins are doing, and I see how my Patriots are doing. I actually think they are probably the top two teams in the division right now. This is my opinion. Again, want to hear what you think about it and where you think that this could be for this year of the Jets.
Yeah, I agree with you, Shree. The AFC East is a really tough division this year. My take on how the Jets could fare, they can't get swept by any of these teams this year because if they do, their schedule's too hard to be able to end up going any farther. So I do see the Bills as number one. The Dolphins are a really good team, but I think we played them pretty well last year. I think we can give them a run for their money. I do think we could be the number two team, but that's just my take. I feel like they had a lot of really great upgrades from a free agency standpoint. Brought a lot of people in that is familiar with Rodgers. They brought Hackett in. I was
Right.
reading the other day. Peyton Manning ended up saying this that he thinks it'll work out very well for the Jets just because of the familiarity, same offense, same players. There's not a lot of new things that he'll learn. So I think the Dolphins, they're tough, but I think we can take them as the number two spot in the AFC East.
Yeah, I agree with you. And here's where I see the Jets or the Dolphins. And honestly, I can even make a one step close. And don't call me a jinx here, but I'm just looking at the way on paper, right? On paper, I feel that Josh Allen is good on Buffalo. And I think they've lost a few people. They still have a good offense. I'm not sure about their defense. And here's where I see the Jets. And then let's go back to Miami. Tua is one injury away from a concussion. I mean, last year they were not in a good spot, especially when he got hurt. And Skylar Thompson is not going to do it for Miami, especially the kind of skill players they have in like Tyreek Hill. And for me, again, today, as of May 5th, I think the Jets are probably the team to beat in the AFC because I'm not still convinced on the Bills, especially the way they finished in the end last year. But I do think that it could be fine. I mean, I could still make a case for Buffalo being one, and Jets being two. I'm still not sold on Miami yet. Maybe it's me, although my Patriots have always had a tough time against Miami. And let's see how the Patriots fare. I mean, Belichick is definitely loading up on the defense, and then kind of making sure that Mac is just the type of quarterback that doesn't make a mistake. But going back to the Jets, because this is indeed a Jets podcast that we wanted to talk about. Um, I think you're right. There's a very tough season ahead for the Jets. A lot of the schedules will be coming out, I think, pretty soon. But I think you know who the opponents are. But definitely that'll be something to look at the schedule once it arrives, and then you can start looking at your wins and losses. But you're right, Anthony, about the Jets should go at least 4-2 at a minimum for them to go. And what your thoughts on that? And then we'll quickly dive into uh, your draft, prospects.
Yeah, I think you're right on the 4-2 front. I think they have to go that to be able to, I think, make a run at the playoffs. Their schedule is they're actually, I think, they have the sixth hardest schedule, but in the league. To your point, they haven't come out with the times or the dates yet, but we do know the opponents, and I mean they've got teams like the Chiefs, the Eagles. They have they have a ton of people that are ton of teams actually that are making them have one of the toughest schedules. So if they don't fare well in the AFC East, it'll be a tough sledding to be able to kind of get it to the playoffs.
But here's where I think Rogers. I mean, he's always been good. I mean, he's to me one of the top, five quarterbacks in the league. And one thing that Rogers would need is a good offensive line. And the Jets do have a pretty good offensive line. They definitely need to. I wanted to ask you, what did you think they did in the draft to help Rogers? Obviously, Rogers is coming with his Green Bay, receivers in Lazard and Randall Cobb, and also his offensive coordinator from Green Bay. What did you think that the Jets did in the draft to help them? Obviously, the Jets defense is pretty good with Sauce Gardner, um, but I just want to know your thoughts on the draft itself.
Yeah, I thought they did. I thought they fared well. In classic Belichick fashion, he had to trade up a spot to take our offensive tackle that we ended up wanting to take. But I was happy with the pass rusher we ended up getting, elite speed off the edge, and I think Robert Saleh loves to have those pass rushers getting after the quarterback. So I was happy with that. And then they ended up picking up two offensive linemen, a center from Wisconsin. I think he's like 6'7", 300 plus pounds. So that was definitely a position of need. And we ended up getting another offensive tackle out of Pittsburgh. So what I loved about what they did with the draft and even free agency, they brought back some of their own offensive linemen to compete. We've got Mekhi Becton, that's competing for a spot at tackle, hasn't played a game in 2 years because of injury. So I think we're bringing some people back. We drafted some offensive linemen. I wouldn't be surprised if we have a top five O line, in my opinion, going into the year.
Which is very critical. And the one other factor I think last year Bryce Hall was hurt, and that really set the Jets back with a good offensive line, good running back, and also having good wide receiver skill players. Especially, they still have some young players. Was that Wilson was one of the receivers? I think
Garrett Wilson. Yep.
Garrett Wilson, he's really good. I mean, and let's see how Rodgers is going to use him. I mean, Randall Cobb is his go-to guy, but I see uh, Rodgers going to him, especially on third down situations and things like that. But with the skill players that Rodgers has, I'm actually excited to see, maybe not against the Patriots itself, but I'm actually excited to see how Rodgers is. I mean, this is a great experiment. This is, I think, the New York is going to be buzzing, and for once, it's not going to be the Giants who are going to get the media attention. It's going to be an everyday circus, and it's going to be how Rodgers is going to, I would say, handle that. So, your thoughts on playing in New York itself, and also, um, and and what the Jets may do.
Yeah, I mean, we're a week and a half, 2 weeks into him being a Jet, and just listening to his press conferences, he just seems like a totally different player, like incredibly happy to be at the organization, playing in New York. You see him at Madison Square Garden all the time now, checking out the Knick games and the Ranger games. So I think he's loving it. I think I'm incredibly excited to see what this season brings us. And the one interesting thing I think to note too is kind of coming into all of this. Everyone was talking about, is he going to be a 1 year, one and done type of situation? But I think he's made a couple of comments around, sticking it out and seeing this through at least for 2 years. So, I don't want to project out, but we got to focus on coming up on this season. But I'm happy that he seems to be committed, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah. The other thing I do want to note is that Zach Wilson, who was your, I think, number one pick, right? Or I think the first
He
round
was.
pick. He was a
Yep.
first round pick. And here's something that he could learn from a professional, how he handles pressure, how he is placed under pressure. So for Zach Wilson, post Rogers, this could be a good opportunity for him to kind of, learn under the wings, just like, anytime you had a Brady or a Manning, usually the backup quarterbacks learn a lot, and it's something that maybe may change his approach to the game. Uh, you know, prior to this year, Zach was not a confident quarterback, and maybe that changes it. I think he's also brought another quarterback, right? A backup quarterback from Green
Backup
Bay.
quarterback. Yep. Yep.
Okay. Okay. All right. So like I said, this is great. I mean, I know we've been talking about, the season can't come soon enough. Because I'm excited for it, and then as the season rolls, I think we should do more of this and try to see where we are in the season. So your last minute, um, I would say, your parting shots about the Jets and what you think.
How about, should I go with maybe a record
Well,
projection?
okay.
I think we go. What is it? 10-7. I think we go 10
One
wins.
and seven is it will be pretty good, I think, in the AFC. I think it's going to be very jam packed. I feel that when I just went through each and every division, the Jaguars are the team to beat. Although I do feel that Tennessee, I think Tennessee got Will Levis, I think, if I'm not mistaken, even though
They
Tannehill is
did.
there. So, and then the Colts got Anthony Robinson from Florida. So that's going to be a very interesting division for me. Although I have heard like Houston Texans made a good pick as well. So when I look at the division, 10-7, I think the first thing is in the division. Like I said, they finished second. Um, I don't know. Maybe I may flip to a first, but let's see. But if they win the division, they're definitely hosting a playoff. But exciting times for sure. I think for a Jets fan, you must be really thrilled about it, and I'll be watching very closely. And I know we both love football, and we'll be watching uh, each and every game like it's like the Super Bowl for the Jets. So I'm looking forward to it. So again,
Yeah.
thank you, Anthony. I really appreciate your time and in talking about the hopes as a Jet fan with Aaron Rodgers and the season that comes upon us.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. Sure, we'll have to do this again.
All right, absolutely. Thank you so much and have a
Yeah.
good night.
Take care, you too.